Okay, great. Well, it's just a couple minutes after 4. I'd like to call to order the Recreation Committee meeting for the City of Charleston for March 20th, 2023, and appreciate everybody being on and in the meeting with us. We've got a little bit of a busy schedule. So if we can, please, we'll just take just a moment of silence, please. Amen. Thank you for that. And Wanda Stepp did an outstanding job of putting together minutes once again, as she always does, and those were sent out to us. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from February 21st?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Can I get a second? Okay, we have a motion to approve in a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So the minutes are accepted. And
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Wanda. Appreciate all your work. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Most of you know, back it's been almost a month now. We had a workshop with our Parks and Recreation Master Plan, and Pat Hoagland and Tom O'Rourke was talking to us in there, telling us to have a plan and act on that plan, know how much, figure out how much we actually need, how we're going to get that done. He showed us a figure of 219,500,000 on there, and he said, out of that, we've just got to figure out how much, what we're going to do, have a dedicated funding source, and make sure every district's represented in there. And he gave us an example of what he was talking about. He said, if just as an example, say we wanted 50 million available every 5 years, but to have that kind of plan and that kind of funding source available. And he said, go after finding money in the budget, and or have a voter approved bond referendum, and look for a nonprofit funding source to partner with as well. In their survey, he was showing us that we only had 5% of the people who would not support a bond. And we were told the question would, if we were going to have it on a bond referendum, that question would need to be formed for the ballot by the middle of August. And he told us he felt like it was a good year to do it because there's potentially more city participation with it being a mayor's race this coming year. And then he introduced us to Pageen Harahan, the former mayor of Gainesville, who's the Trust for Public Land representative for Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina, and that she could poll our constituents at no cost to the city, give us a scientific study or scientific survey on the possibility of a successful vote on a bond referendum. So Tom was telling us at that time, he said, listen, if you can get this, if we can get something with her, and within 30 days, she'd have time to vote before the deadline. We're right there about that 30 days. I think we're 27 days since we met. So obviously we need to talk about it. We need to prioritize a list. And, I know Tom had mentioned Jason's already been working on some of these things. And, he was just mentioning that if we did this, questions need to be fair. Want to see, constituents want to see how much and then what they're going to receive for their money. So anyway, that's kind of where we are right now. So I thought, if it's okay, Jason, I'd kind of throw it to you for a minute and kind of go from there if we could.
Yeah. So thanks for the recap. That was great information. So what we did last week and prior to last week was, and based on the outcome of that workshop, when the mayor had made the request for technical assistance to Pageen at the meeting, we have a formal letter drafted to request that technical assistance, and it's ready to go out. And if there's no objection with the Recreation Committee and you support that approach, we'd like to go ahead and get the Trust for Public Land engaged. And again, that letter is ready to go.
Great. Yeah, I think we should move forward if there's no objections. Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are no objections, of course, but I thought we agreed to do that at the workshop.
Yeah, there was a request by the mayor to go ahead and do it at the end of that meeting. And so we just have the letter drafted up. Everybody's been pretty busy, but we're ready to send it out. And I know that I think Pegin's probably on this call, and they're ready to go. They've already kind of started working on it a little bit. So this is just that official process, the official step to make it the official technical assistance request.
Okay, great. Do we need to vote on that, or just, or can we just move forward, or do we need to move?
I think we could just move forward. Let's send out the letter.
Okay.
Yes, sir. No votes necessary. As long as there's no objection from the committee, we can move forward.
Yep. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Julia. All right. Well, very good. So do we need to talk? I guess we need to talk about prioritizing at this point, or is that part of what she does? I think we need to talk about prioritization, about lists. You know, I think there was an idea out there. We can look at a big projects list, stuff maybe 10 million plus, look at a smaller project list, some lower hanging fruit type thing. And then obviously we want to make sure that every district's covered. So we probably need to have, you know, we probably need to hear from each one of our council members and what's either located in their district that needs to be taken care of, or something near there. For example, Bear Swamp is not in District 2, but you know, it's I think in District 5, but it certainly benefits my constituents and benefits District 10 as well. So that each council member kind of have priorities, you know, around their districts, I guess. So
yeah, I think that's some great points that we would want each council member to evaluate their district and based on the Parks and Rec master plan and come up with a list of projects that are important to your districts. And you know, we'll certainly take a stab at it as well. We have a couple of drafts of project lists.
great.
But we just want to make sure that each council district is represented somehow. And like you said, Councilmember Shealy, sometimes a bigger project certainly affects a lot of different districts, knowing that if we had 12 big projects at many $1 million a piece, we have to, again, be able to afford something, be able to actually get some work done, and just make sure that we're all collaborating as we bring something forward.
Okay. Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's a very good idea. And I think that was part of the intent of our workshop, but sometimes it's a little harder to get down in the weeds. And if you and staff would facilitate with that list and get it around to our colleagues and just be an informal thing, but some feedback from each of the council members, and then we could get back together for you know, yet another workshop type meeting and, you know, show the consolidated response of what everybody's thoughts were on priorities, both citywide and within the districts. And I think that would help inform the effort by the mayor and her group to do her survey as well. So that gets it down to what Tom was talking about. By the time we get to putting a question on the ballot, that we know, you know, here's what projected costs are, and these are the specific things that we want to accomplish.
Okay, very good.
Helps gets us there.
All
Does that
right.
sound like a plan? I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, that sounds good. And so, Jason, you kind of already have a list, I guess. When we go to that, is there anything we need to do to help you prepare for that?
We just need to figure out how we want to present and receive feedback for each council district. So we can share a list that we've put together based on the Parks and Rec master plan itself. It's a very long list, but we've tried to narrow that down a couple times. But however y'all see fit to be able to, what's the best way for us to receive input from each district and each council member in the district? Is it an email? Is it a formal form that we provide you? Any thoughts on that?
I mean, I think you could just email it out, ahead of time, obviously, to give people time to look it over before we have any type of workshop session. But I think that would be fine.
Okay, I'll get with Lori and then we'll get something out to everybody.
Okay. All right, very good. Anything else on next steps for Councilmember Saccharin?
Thank you, Chairman. So Jason, when that list goes out or that inquiry goes out, it'd be helpful to see a consolidated list that you all are working on. That'll give us something to kind of react to and think about. I don't want to duplicate information, and at the same time, I also want to understand, I guess, from your vantage point, what you all are thinking in terms of a list. So if you could send that list, that'd be very helpful.
Got it.
All right. Anything else on this topic of next steps for our master plan? Well, very good. Do we know, well, I guess let me ask, do we know when we may be able, how soon we can have this workshop? Can we get it done in a couple of weeks, or should it take longer than that?
Well, Lori and I can get you something out in the next couple of days, hopefully based on the work that we've already done. And then as far as scheduling a recap and a workshop based on information we get back, I'll defer to, when we're able to schedule that meeting with Jennifer and the mayor and figure out how to circle it back up, whether it's the next rec committee meeting or, what does that look like for you all?
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Very good. All right. We'll move on. I had put this on the agenda, discuss uses for Carl Richardson Park, and obviously it certainly is already being used as a neighborhood park. I went over there this afternoon, matter of fact, and there was a guy that just happened to move back to Charleston. He'd been living up in Maine. He came back and he said, "Oh man, I spend about 3 days a week here." And I said, "Well, what kind of people do you see?" He said, "Well, mostly older folks." He said, "But I do see some people in here occasionally." He was the only one that happened to be there at the time. So I think it is going to serve a great purpose as a community park and everything. But I know that we've got a lot of money in a very nice facility, a very nice building that's sitting there locked up. So I thought it was worth discussion on our recreation committee meeting to see where are we planning on going with Carl Richardson Park? Is that building just going to sit there empty? I guess my other question immediately too is did we get the kitchen equipment and that kind of stuff? But how do we use that, and what's the plan going forward, I guess, was kind of my question on here.
Don't everybody
Anybody?
once. I'll just open by saying it's my recollection that we were going to have some historical materials in there about the neighborhood. That doesn't necessarily imply that the facility is going to be open all the time, because then you have to have some staff there, right, Lori?
Correct, sir.
But I certainly recall us talking about the space being available for, events, for receptions, for family reunions, for neighborhood gatherings. And my guess is that we would manage that like we do most city facilities when they're requested for, some public use.
Okay. So I guess my question would be, are we going to have that advertised out there now? Or is it going to be available, or are we waiting, you know?
Councilmember Shealy, I'll take a stab at this. So we now have an inventory. I don't know about the kitchen. I would have to go back to the capital projects manager to get information on that. But we have 48 chairs and 11 tables and some things like that that could be used if a group wanted to have some kind of event there. Recreation is now accepting permit applications to use that facility. I don't have a staff assigned to that. No staff came with the opening of that building. So anything that is used, we would have to find a staff, and people would pay a staffing fee as well as a rental fee and a cleanup fee. The question that's kind of been on my mind is this building a lot more like recreation facilities, or is it more like a enterprise facility? In that if folks are wanting to use it for reunions or wedding receptions or things like that, our buildings typically don't get that level of use. Ours are typically more of a birthday party, or the neighborhood is somebody's having to get together or something. It's bigger than the house. And so, those kind of things. But, and because of that, recreation does not have any alcohol allowed on any of its permits. Now, this predates Lori Yorbra, and I know it predates Jason Kronsberg. It's just always been the way it is. St. Julian Divine or Arthur Christopher or James Allen Rec Center, or, those kind of, any of our neighborhood playgrounds, Lenovar or Deming, we don't allow folks to have alcohol at those kinds of events. And I'm pretty sure that most people that have a wedding reception are going to want to have alcohol. So we haven't had it come up yet, but those are some questions that are kind of out there that I think between Parks and Recreation and BFRC and the mayor, we probably need to ask ourselves how are we best going to handle this. But for the meantime, if someone's wanting to use that facility, we do have to have a staff person go and work there. So there is a charge, there is a reservation process, and we're currently doing that right now.
Okay.
And just a couple quick other pieces of information based on your question, Councilmember Shealy. That building was constructed for a 49-person occupancy, and there was no kitchen programmed into that facility. There is an area that can be used as a warming kitchen, if you will, where folks could bring in pre-prepared food, and there's an area for all of that to kind of happen and set up for serving and just functionality. But there's no kitchen in the facility. That would have been a much different project.
Okay, got you. Councilmember Saccharin.
Thank you, Chair. So I guess is the question whether we think the use is going to be more recreational or enterprise. When you say enterprise, Laura, you're talking fee-based, right? There's going to be a fee for it. Folks are going to come in.
That's correct. Typically, when you use one of our smaller facilities, Councilmember Saccharin, like McMahon in your district, if you wanted to have a birthday party, the fee is very economical per hour. And then there's a staff fee, and it's something you could have, and the kids could all play, and it's all right there. My thought is that a facility of this size is in this area, given where it's situated, it's picturesque, and I think folks are going to want to use it for that reason, for some nicer types of events than what recreation typically hosts and has, more like maybe along what we do at the City Gallery or at Dock Street. And I'm not saying it is one of those facilities. I'm just saying it lends itself a little bit to that. And it started out as a neighborhood park, and it is a neighborhood park. You've got to drive down many streets to get there, and there's very limited parking. So, and like Jason said, there's an occupancy number that the fire marshals put on the building. So, I mean, I think we've just all need to kind of figure out what's the best way to use this place within the resources we have. But we are starting to get phone calls about, can we put something on the calendar? So we are accepting those applications for permit right now.
My only addition to that, Lori, was that everything you said is correct. I mean, given the location, is the city willing to revisit that no alcohol rule? And if not, I also could see that being used by corporate afternoon events to do meetings. So it definitely is a money generator, and I think a revenue generator for the city.
Sure. And I've never found anywhere in writing where it says no alcohol at city recreation and parks where children are. It's just always been that way ever since I've been here. And so I can tell you that it's in, where we have little small neighborhood parks, it is hard if you have alcohol in them, if we were to have a problem, having police at things and stuff like that. So typically where we have children, we don't have alcohol or permit it for alcohol, but I can't find that in writing. It's just kind of been a philosophy.
So Lori, what would be our next step to move that forward if we decided to make it more of a venue for weddings and that type of thing? What's our next step as far as alcohol and that type of thing?
Well, I haven't had an opportunity to talk to the mayor about this, so I'm kind of winging this right now, but I guess that would be that discussion. Is that the direction the city would want to take with this? Yes, we have a beautiful playground and a place where you could go and spread a blanket out and have a free afternoon with your kids. But at the same time, you could have a corporate event with wine and music, in the early afternoon or the afternoon hours. Does that fall kind of closer to what our folks over in BFRC do? And I'm not trying to hand them a project either. I'm just not sure where this facility falls. And so I think that decision kind of needs to be made.
Right. Well, I'm just listening to this and thinking out loud. I certainly don't want to rule out the possibility of, allowing those corporate event there or a wedding reception, which could include alcohol use. It's such a picturesque place, beautiful view and all like that. But I would err on the side of making sure that the kid's birthday party is gets higher priority. And I know we don't make money off of it. And in this case, having an extra staff person there might necessitate a little extra fee than the $25 that I think you normally charge. But right now, just getting started, I would err to keep it for, in rec and for community and small events and neighborhood events and kids' birthday parties and things like that. And let us think a little more about the bigger marketing push, whether there's some way to bifurcate that. If it meets a certain requirement, go ahead and handle it through recreation, real simple, low cost, reasonable, and maybe think about those events, be it a wedding reception or, pardon me for saying folks from out of town, where we have a little different fee structure and alcohol is allowed to be served and you can have a real reception there. Anyway, that's my gut feeling.
Okay, very good.
That sound reasonable?
Yes, sir.
Maybe there's some threat. Will you keep it, Laurie, till some threshold and then it goes over to, the BFRC when it becomes that other style event? Does that make sense?
Absolutely, Mayor. I think that we can certainly do that. And I'm happy to talk to Julia and legal to try to help me come up with some guidelines. I just want to make sure that the information we give to anyone that calls is equitable and fair. And so I don't want someone to feel like we're letting one group use it and not another or something like that.
Right.
I just need some guidelines to help me. And I'll be happy to reach out to Julia, who is always very helpful to me. So I'll do that.
Yep, we'll try to develop those guidelines. Good. Thank you.
Very good. Well, great discussion. Thank you for having that discussion. Anything else on Carr Richardson before we move forward? All right. Just thought I'd ask Jason for an update on Greenbelt submissions and just kind of get an idea of where we are.
So item number 6, Greenbelt submissions. 2 weeks ago, the Greenbelt Advisory Board Subcommittee met and they approved both Woodmere and the Bradham tracks unanimously. I will tell you that the Woodmere application has been updated since you all saw it last. The mayor had spoken with the adjacent property owner, and the beach company owns the water body and the island that's adjacent to the Woodmere tract. And they have agreed to give us that property, which has a significant value of over $400,000. And it helps our Greenbelt application significantly by showing a almost 100% match to the project. So it increases our score for when the Greenbelt Advisory Board gets the results of the subcommittee meeting. So that was a really good thing that just happened over the past 2 weeks, I think, Mr. Mayor. So we're moving ahead on that. So both of those are in the queue, and we'll go to the Greenbelt Advisory Board and then on the County Council.
Very good. Wow, that is great news. Very good. And I guess things are still good with the Bradham track too also.
Yeah,
So
both of them
things are still
approved
good.
unanimously at the subcommittee level.
Awesome. Well, that's great news. Any question on Greenbelt? All right. Well, thank you for that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
I am still interested in a future application being the parcels adjacent to the Muni that include part of the wonderful vista that we've opened up along Maybank of the Stono River. And we're just, I think we've been working on that. We hadn't made an application yet, but maybe Jason, you could give us a brief update on that.
Yeah. So when we were working with the Open Space Institute on the Bradham tract, the mayor reminded us of these properties over there next to the Muni and had asked the Open Space Institutes for some assistance on that process. So they were reaching out to get an appraisal. This would be for a fall Greenbelt cycle, which won't be till September, I think. So the OSI is working on the appraisals based on the potential for that land and to create a value that we could then utilize to draft up that Greenbelt application again for that fall winter Greenbelt cycle. So that wouldn't come back until the late third, fourth quarter.
All right. Very good. Any other questions or comments on Greenbelt? Okay. And then just any kind of Fort Pemberton and or WPAL park updates.
All right, so we'll go ahead and give you the Fort Pemberton update. So that the LWCF grant funds have been awarded and we have accepted them. They required deed restrictions to be placed on the property. That those deed restrictions will be coming to you in the next council meeting. And as part of the Greenbelt approval process, the Greenbelt board at the time required a concept plan to be approved by the Greenbelt Advisory Board, which then went to County Council, which was not very unique and not the norm for a Greenbelt project. But we presented to the Greenbelt Advisory Board the concept plan. The Greenbelt Advisory Board recommended that for approval, and then that will be forwarded on to a meeting tomorrow of the Charleston County Council Finance Committee, or actually they were last week, full council meeting tomorrow. So that was required for us to access the Greenbelt funds. So it was a long process. We met with design-focused members of the neighborhood steering committee. We reviewed input received from the open house we held on site in the neighborhood. We hosted 4 information stations and gathered a lot of information. And that was last year, hosted by Parks Department staff. So we received concurrence from the steering committee of the concept plan that I just referenced. In addition, there is a conservation easement held on the property by the South Carolina Battleground and Preservation Trust. We've also delivered the plan to them as they need to review and approve it and for concurrence with their easement that they hold on the earthworks that are part of the property, which was the former fort. We have requested a proposal for design services to take that in-house developed concept plan to construction documents for permitting and bidding. So that's currently under review and being negotiated with the design firm to take that project to the next level. There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff going on behind the scenes with Fort Pemberton. It's amazing when you get multiple conservation easements, deed restrictions, the greenbelt requirements. There's a lot of work to get us to where we are today. So WPAL, basically we have the proposal underway. The consultants are working. Environmental survey is complete. The upland and bathymetric survey field work is finishing up this week and next. So we expect to have all that survey information back, hopefully in the next month or so. And then we'll schedule some additional community engagement, which will derive the development of a conceptual plan, planning to start that work in the second quarter of this year. And then hopefully late third quarter, early fourth quarter, we should have a fully vetted plan with construction documents ready to update the cost estimate, evaluate funding, and get that project ready for bidding.
Great. Thank you, Jason. Any questions, WPAL or Fort Pemberton? Well, a lot of work being done. Thank you very much. And throughout this this meeting thus far, we've talked about a lot of beautiful properties. So a lot of nice, very, very, very nice waterfront properties that we're talking about, and the city can be very, very proud of. So thank you for all your work on all of that, Jason. Thank you so much. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to note, I think particularly on the WPAL site, that we might have enough funding dedicated for all of this planning and design work. But correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, I don't think we have funding allocated for construction yet. And so this, in fact, could be one of those, the construction of the park could be one of the items on our Parks and Rec master plan that y'all help us prioritize.
I believe there is some funding available, but it wasn't based on a design.
Right.
But there is some funding. I'm not sure exactly how much off the top of my head. As we all know, the cost of construction has increased daily, right? Especially over the last year. So once we get those construction documents done throughout that process, we'll be updating cost estimates and then working with Amy and her staff over at BFRC to see where we are with that. But yes, it could be part of this discussion we had previously as far as a project list.
Right.
All right, very good. And next on our agenda, I thought I'd get park and recreation staffing updates if we could, please.
So I'll just go ahead and, since I'm talking still.
All right.
The last time we reported out was I think it was early February at the committee meeting, and at that point in time, just the big picture is 159 budgeted positions, 116 filled, 43 vacant, which was a 72% filled rate, 27% vacancy. The most current update from then, so we had taken some other positions in our facilities, and we took one position and made it two. So we have budgeted currently 160 positions. We're still at 116 filled. There's been a lot of changes within the ranks. There's been 3 or so promotions to open positions, which left those positions open. And then I think 3 or 4 new hires over that same period of time. But it's a bear when you're looking at 160 positions across facilities maintenance and grounds maintenance and urban forestry. We could certainly get deeper into that, but it gets pretty not complicated, but it's a lot of different divisions and roles within the city parks department to determine where the biggest openings are versus what our challenges are. So we haven't changed much over the last 2 months. There's been a lot of good feedback based on the salary increases. So from a facilities management staffing point of view, we have filled some electrical and plumbers positions. But with the ebb and flow of attrition and retirement, we're still pretty steady across the board.
Okay, very good.
Councilmember Shealy, I'll give you an update. I'm kind of like Jason. We've had a couple people that have left in the last 30 days in full-time positions, but we've also had folks that have either from internally or outside the organization applying for those jobs. So at a net spot, we're about the same. What I can tell you is we're seeing more applications coming in when jobs are open. I think that is because of the pay being upped, and it's certainly more competitive. So that's been a great thing to see, is having more candidates to look at, and people interested in coming to work in our organization. So I'm very happy with that. We're still struggling part-time. Part-time is a difficult animal to kind of address. So we've actually taken a few part-time positions and combined them, like Jason's done, several part-times and creating some full-time. So we're hoping that'll help us a little bit, finding someone that wants to come into the organization and stay here rather than just coming in for 6 or 8 months and leaving. So I do think the new pay plan that you all so generously voted on has helped the city attract some new candidates. So that's been great.
Very good. All right. Any questions for Lori or Jason on that? All right. Well, very good. Well, I appreciate everybody's time. We had some good discussions on here, and glad to see we're moving forward with our next steps on the Park and Recreation Master Plan. And Lori and Jason, thank you for all your work. Obviously, as you're saying, you're short-staffed and you're doing incredible work, both of you. So thank you so much for everything you do. If there's nothing else to come before this committee, we stand adjourned. So thank you all.
Thank you.
See y'all.